A very warm welcome as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Pearl Naimaka. On today's episode of the program, we're going to be featuring two of the major stakeholders in the taxation subsector in Nigeria. Yes, of course, the Federal Inland Revenue Service is the numero uno, the major player. But then, taxes are collected for purposes, for public good, for provision of amenities, for security of lives and property, and for a myriad of things. The Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund, is one intervention agency that was established specifically to make use of proceeds of education tax which is collected by the FIRS. One other stakeholder in the taxation subsector is the Tax Appeal Tribunal. As would be expected in a sector like the taxation sector, where laws and regulations drive the process, disputes must arise. And when disputes arise, they need to be resolved. So today, there will be something on TET Fund and there will be something on TAT.
So there is nothing we can do. I can't believe this. Last year, I let it go. This year, my tax assessment is even worse. They keep doing this because they know there is no one we can complain to.
But there is.
Really?
Yes. You can go to the Tax Appeal Tribunal.
Tax Appeal Tribunal?
Yes.
The Tax Appeal Tribunal is established to resolve all tax disputes between taxpayers and the Revenue Authority. So when your tax disputes are not resolved to your satisfaction, the Tax Appeal Tribunal is there to help. You can visit any of our offices nationwide or email info@tat.gov.ng for support. Tax Appeal Tribunal, building confidence in Nigeria's tax system.
Among the major taxes collected by the FIRS is education tax, 2% of the assessable profit of all limited liability companies. In the year 2018, a total of 203 billion naira was collected as education tax by the FIRS and handed over to TET Fund. And so far, in the first 6 months of 2019, almost 100 billion naira has been collected as education tax. What does TET Fund do with the funds in its care?
Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have in our midst this afternoon some lecturers of beneficiary institutions who have benefited from the Fund's Academic Staff Training and Development Program. And we'll be inviting them and they will be speaking to us, giving us testimonies of their experience under the program.
TET Fund, of course, has done a lot in my institution. Like the ES said, virtually any new building now has to be a TET Fund building because there's virtually no other source of money. We had our library seriously upgraded by TET Fund, 2014-2016 intervention. Phase 1. Our phase 2 was completed last year. We now have a good e-library system in place with a lot of textbooks, and it's about, I think, a 3-story structure, which was commissioned some time ago, and it has been of tremendous help to our students. And if you come to a library, you have the state-of-the-art facilities there, and it's a source of pride to all of us in Federal College Education Technical. We have right now about 77 scholars who are being sponsored by TET Fund. 14 of us, international scholars, 6 for PhD, 8 for MSc, and then local scholars, 63, making a total of 77.
I went to South Africa to do the PhD. I went 2013, I came back 2016, though I couldn't finish. Due to some reason, I could not stay there for a year more, but I had finished all the bench work. What remained was just the thesis, which I was able to write online. Then I needed to go back again. I went back 2017, spent 6 weeks there, come back, and after that, I got my PhD in chemistry.
Okay, I'm a two-time beneficiary. The first one for my master's, which was in 2016. I'm a lecturer at the Federal College of Education at Corka, I'm in the physics department of Physics Education, and it was a wonderful experience. 2016, I had to come back as stipulated with the bond I signed to serve for 3 years, and as God will have it, I will soon be going for my PhD, having served 3 years stipulated by the fund. So I'm really grateful for another opportunity. It's an experience I would forever be grateful for. What you are really doing, it's changing the face of the system in Nigeria, and I hope with the support of all stakeholders, things can only go up from here.
All this took place at an interactive forum between the FIRS and TED Fund in Lagos on the 1st of July 2019, with the theme, Mitigating the Challenges of Education Tax Collection in a Recuperating Economy. In his welcome address, Executive Secretary TED Fund, Professor Suleiman Bogoro, reiterated the importance of the FIRS in the affairs of TED Fund.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service is the live wire of TED Fund. We are a fund, and if the funds are not available, we are managing nothing. We will continue to appreciate FIRS for the great thing you've been doing over the years.
Professor Bogoro also spoke about some challenges impacting on the work of the fund and its effectiveness.
The first reference of performance of TED Fund by the average person there is the number of lecture rooms, lecture theaters, laboratories, libraries, Senate buildings, including the type that we commissioned at Kwasu, my later Kwara State, barely 1.5 weeks ago, rated as the biggest and the most intimidating library for many reasons in the Nigerian university system. As a result, there has been increased attention. There is increased focus on TED Fund because today it is said jokingly that our public institutions should be renamed TED Fund universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. And that is why we are in the limelight. And because we are in the limelight, there has been increased tendency and quest for institutions that do not qualify by the definition of our law to want to qualify. From a little above 100 beneficiary institutions, at the time I came in 2014, it has almost doubled now. Believe me, it's already over 220. Colleges of Agric that have been doing technology in agriculture, they want to go into engineering so as to qualify to be TED Fund beneficiaries. Believe me, it's worrisome for those of us that are managers, because we're seeing the per capita intervention funds whittling down. And so the impact would also go down. The more worrisome is the one associated with state governments. Yes, there are many state governments that establish institutions also just to qualify for TED Fund intervention, when even salaries cannot be paid. Let me taper off with the area that is our new focus. We are gradually moving from the physical infrastructure intervention to what we call the content components. And the content components for any academic institution has to do with what? Research. Research. We want to deepen research. You can only do so where you have centers of excellence that are veritable centers of excellence, not just for the name of it. From next year, we want to start funding, and we hope to have centers of excellence, TED Fund centers of excellence emerging, hopefully with not less than 1.5 billion allocated to each of them. TED Fund centers of excellence.
Executive Chairman FIRS, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, was represented by Mr. Abiodun Aino, Coordinating Director, Domestic Taxes Group at the FIRS.
I listened patiently and attentively to the Executive Secretary, and I'm very happy about the development of what is going on in TED Fund. He paid a lot of encomiums on us in the Federal Inland Revenue Service. in the lands of my father. So when you do well and then you are praised, it's a challenge for you to do more. And I see that for us in FRS, that means we have to do much more. We have taken our mandate as a national service. We are committed to our role because the law says that we must perform this role, and we are truly committed to it. Then listening to you to see what you have just done again, the intervention that we've been able to make in the sector, make it more encouraging and more compelling for us to want to perform this role the more.
The executive chairman aligned with the paradigm shift of TED Fund with regard to academic staff training and development as well as research.
When you talk about the paradigm shift from physical structure to what we call content component, and I think that is the way to go. I think that's going to be quite helpful to us because research and development indeed are those things that is going to move this nation forward.
2 papers were presented to guide the discussion at the interactive forum. Mr. Abiodun Aino again mounted the podium to present the FIRS's paper on tertiary education tax collection, the activities, performance, challenges, and recommendations.
So quickly, let's look at our collection of education tax trend between 2015 and 2018. From 2015, we had 130 billion. 2017, it was 154, and at the end of 2018, we were able to do 203 billion.
TED Fund Management also made a presentation titled An Overview of Activities, Performance, Challenges, and Way Forward on the Utilization of Education Tax.
Let me quickly remind us that the scope of the fund, the intervention of the fund, is for universities. We have enlisted so far a total of 81 universities, public institutions, a total of 64 public polytechnics, and a total of 69 colleges of education. Between 2016 and 2018, we have been able to allocate a total of 225 billion, 320 million, 734,000 naira to various institutions. Note that we are strictly adhering to the provision in section 7.3 of the Act for the ratio of distribution, where it is stated that universities get 2 parts, polytechnics 1 part, and colleges of education 1 part. Note that nobody gets more than the other. We are very, very careful to observe that aspect of the law.
Again, you may ask, what does TED Fund do with the funds made available to it?
In creating access, expanding access, the federal government, in its wisdom, directed that 12 new universities be opened in 2011. And TED Fund provided 1.58 billion per institution at that time for the takeoff of each of these institutions. In 2016, TED Fund again provided additional 2 billion to each of these institutions and the new Nigerian Army University in Abuja.
On academic staff training,
we have grown from 40% PhDs to 70% PhDs. The intervention ensures that every person teaching in a university has a Doctor of Philosophy degree, a PhD, from the best in the world.
Surely, TED Fund is working, FIRS is working, and the educational system is the better for it.
In 2018, a total of 5.320 trillion naira was collected as taxes by the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS), This is the highest ever collected as federal taxes in Nigeria. Taxes have become an important source of revenue, enabling the government to provide greater infrastructural developments in our country. Tax revenues enable government to provide more roads, more railways, more bridges, more housing, more schools, more students in schools, more hospitals, more security, and generate more power. Because Nigeria deserves more. Only your taxes can make all our dreams come true. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS. It pays to pay your tax.
Welcome back from one interactive forum to another. As we said in the introduction, the Tax Appeal Tribunal is one other major stakeholder in the tax administration system in Nigeria. The TAT has been very busy lately, and trust us, we've been bringing you stories from the stable of the TAT in recent time. On the 7th of August 2019, the TAT held a stakeholders forum in Lafia, Nasarawa State. Nasarawa State is one of the 6 states under the North Central Zone of the TAT with headquarters in Jos. Mr. Richard Umar Bala is the chairman of the North Central Zonal Tribunal of the TAT.
Today marks the beginning of sensitization of the Tax Appeal Tribunal. The importance of tax appeal as a component of an effective administration system can never be overemphasized. This is because an ideal tax system should necessarily offer a multi-layer, objective, and appeal process that compels the complainant to go through a mechanism before gaining access to the regular court system. The North Central Zone of the Tribunal is located in Jos, with jurisdiction over Plateau, Niger, Nasarawa, Benue, Kwara, and Kogi states. The Tribunal's mission is to resolve tax disputes on the basis of a fair, impartial, flexible, and speedy, convenient, and affordable, with a view to promoting public confidence and voluntary compliance with tax laws.
The interactive forum was attended by a large number of stakeholder groups. The state governor was represented by the executive chairman, Nasarawa State Board of Internal Revenue, Alhaji Ahmed Yakubu Muhammad. Formalities over, the interactive session, the reason for the occasion, kicked off in earnest.
To further understand the workings of this tax appeal tribunal, an average person needs to know how to approach the tax appeal tribunal when he has a grievance. For instance, now, an Okada man who is disgruntled of the taxes meted on him, can he go to Jos to file an appeal arising from grievances? Added to that, sir, may I point out quickly that there is a revenue court manned by our most respected magistrate seated at the high table there, YY Shafa. That is what I want to be clear, even as a lawyer.
Taxes are being assessed, especially on small and medium enterprises, on best of judgment. I don't know. Most of them doesn't even know how these taxes are assessed. No, they are aware of percentages being used. Now, in such situation, how will this person know that he is over-assessed or not being treated well to be able to make appeal?
Most of the questions raised and the observations made revealed a lack of understanding of the workings of the Tax Appeal Tribunal, and the Zonal Tribunal Chairman observed this in his response.
Most of the questions raised are as a result, except the last two, are as a result of lack of understanding of what actually the Tax Appeal Tribunal stands for. The Tax Appeal Tribunal is an appeal tribunal where either the administrator of tax or the taxpayer disagrees with the assessment, where the taxpayer disagrees with the assessment and a final assessment made to him, he has recourse to the tax appeal tribunal. That's why it's called an appeal. After you have exhausted all explanation with the Revenue Board, either the Federal Inland Revenue Service or the State Internal Revenue Service, and you are not able to resolve, then you come on appeal to the Tax Appeal Tribunal. The last two, and I'm happy it comes from the bar. These are our colleagues. The first man talks on, can an average man who is living in Nasarawa go all the way to Jos, where the appeal tribunal is cited? It's a matter of, I think it's a matter of statute. The statute has already established the tax appeal tribunal for the North Central Zone in Jos. Now, when you disagree with the assessment, and you know there are periods within which is final, if within that period you are not satisfied, you can file an appeal. You file an appeal to the Tax Appeal Tribunal, and we will listen.
Other members of the Zonal Tribunal also contributed.
First and foremost, what is the jurisdiction of the Tax Appeal Tribunal vis-a-vis the Revenue Court? That's one. Secondly, who are the parties that should come to the Tax Appeal Tribunal and who should go to the Revenue Court? It is important for you to get this, because one of the reasons why some people cannot even fight for their right, either by approaching the Tax Appeal Tribunal or the Revenue Court, is they don't even know where to go to. But the law is clear. The Revenue Courts are for the administration and enforcement of state revenue law. Rates is clear. State revenue law. Why the Tax Appeal Tribunal is for the interpretation of those federal enactments that are clearly spelled out in the 5th schedule to the Federal Inland Revenue Service Act. So most common cases that come to the Tax Appeal Tribunal relate to personal income tax under the Personal Income Tax Act. That's one. Another instance that you can come to the Tax Appeal Tribunal is through VAT. When you disagree with respect to VAT, and VAT is usually collected by hotels and those in hospitality industry, those people are likely to use the avenue of the Tax Appeal Tribunal. So, in deciding where to go to, it is critical for the administrators to look at the law under which the assessment was made. And it is also expected that in making your demand for payment of tax, you should stipulate the relevant provision of the law under which the assessment is being made.
Again, as we have said several times on the program, The Tax Appeal Tribunal is there as succor for aggrieved taxpayers. Embrace the TAT. Take advantage of the platform provided for amicable settlement of tax disputes. Of course, we enjoin you to take advantage of the platform provided by this program for information and education on taxation by joining us next week on this same station, same day of the week, same time of the day. Bye for now.